Even the story that I'm telling has to be intentional. It has to reflect the past and the future. If you stop living for survival, like you start living intentional to solve certain problems for communities, for industries, for yourself, that doesn't just help you, it helps who comes after you. We're in the age of AI today, we're in the age of digital creativity today. But the problem we face the most is data sets. All the data sets that have been trained on AI from Africa is biased. But when you think about where the money is going today when it comes to Africa and AI, it's not going towards data sets and currency.
Hi guys, welcome to yet another episode of Ferdy Adimefe's podcast. I will always say to you guys, I'm a storyteller, I love stories. And whether I'm actually reading a good book or watching a great movie, I'm always thrilled by how powerful stories can be. One of the most exciting places is to listen to conversations. And then you find a different kind of stories from souls, people working the journey, how they grew, evolved, the biggest successes, the greatest failures. But all of these things and everything in between is for us to learn. So guys, today, sit tight as we roll. I'm diving deep today with my friend here, Malik Afegbua. Malik of Slick City, CEO Slick City. Malik, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me here. It's good to have you.
I've followed your work, and I remember we met at several places. Malik is one of the few people I get to meet at events. And you know, there's some friends we only meet. Maybe there was this one in Kenya that we were there, and then there was the other one in Unilag, and I think you were Moonshot as well.
Yes.
So it's always at events, and but I really want you to tell us something random and exciting about you that you think people don't always know.
I'm a hermit. I don't actually go out. You would never see me, if it's not those events, you'll never see me anywhere else. I'm always indoors. I don't like going out. And this is not what I used to be in the past.
Really?
I used to be very different from what I am today.
But what switched from an extrovert who may have enjoyed hanging out with people to an introvert creator who enjoys his time alone to create? What happened for that switch to cafe?
Felt like I found a gap in solving a problem, especially in Africa, in Nigeria. And that requires sacrifices. And more the sacrifices required me learning new things, perfecting new things, my skill sets, many things, and it's time. And I have a family as well. So for me to balance that time, I need to have that time to, learn, to create, to perfect. And I can't do that when I'm, going out every time, meeting people, except it's an event and I'm speaking out or doing a keynote. It's just sacrifices I had to do. And I got used to it. Because back when I was at school, I didn't like reading. That's the truth. I was lucky enough to be one of the people that when you just glance through something, you understand it quickly and you pass. One of the lucky ones. So I didn't enjoy reading. I used to go out every time. I club 3-4 times a week. Even if I stick.
This was in the UK, yeah?
In the UK, But I think when I left school and I started to look for things that had value, like, okay, what am I giving? I was thinking about why am I here? Am I here to serve? Am I here to just collect air and go? Why am I really here? Asking myself that question. And when I started to answer that question and see how to go about why I'm here, it required me stepping back, refocusing, re-strategizing everything. And it wasn't intentional. I just found myself doing it. I just found myself spending more time indoors, spending more time with family, spending more time learning than I used to. Like every time I must go out, I must find the next activity. But today, people that invite me to events and into social events, you have to call me 3 or 4 times to make sure I'm coming. It's unfortunate, but it's also the truth. But yeah.
So you spoke about balancing time. 2 kids,
Yes.
and you've been married for 8 years. As a creator and a family man, how do you split that time? Is there a way you work it out that has helped you to stay both present to your family and effective on your job?
Yes, I make sure I have a home office. So most of the work that I do in my home office. Sometimes I just come out of my office, go to see my son, my wife, or my daughter in the living room, spend some time, go back. Or if I'm having a mental block, for instance, I could just see my daughter smiling and I'm, in a different space. So I make sure I'm present every time. So even if I may spend a lot of time in my office working, I give time to just, rather than going out, spending the entire day, coming back tired or in traffic. So I work from outside as well. I have other spaces I work from, but most of the bulk of it is actually at home. So I see them every day, and that's I'm used to it now in a way. Yeah.
What is one thing about your kids that you enjoy?
They're very much like me, very curious. Very curious, they catch up quickly. My son, literally, if he handles any gadget today, for the first time, tomorrow is perfect with it. He's using it, and I don't teach him. He knows how to use gadgets, phones, cameras, like it's fun.
Intuitive.
Very, and when you're talking, he's listening to you, watching everything you're saying to understand. If you're doing anything, he's watching it like very meticulously too. Like he's there, he's focusing. And that's the way I am. I've always been like that. I've always been a fast learner. I've always been very curious about literally everything. Things that don't concern me, I want to know how to work. I want to know, why is that thing ticking like that? What's the reason why this thing happened? How can I solve that problem? That's the way my mind works, and I see that in them as well. So it's a bittersweet thing, because sometimes it's not a great place to be. So I feel like everyone else sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, that one.
So married for 8 years. I know, it will shock you, but not everyone who got married 8 years ago is still married.
Yeah, true.
I think in America, they'll put that figure at 50%.
Yeah.
Right. But what is that philosophy that has helped you through thick and thin to work it out and make your marriage something that is still strong today?
I have at the back of my mind that every human being is not perfect. Yeah. And there will always be ups and downs. Always. That should not lead to say, oh, I'm tired of this thing, or what am I even doing in the first place? The fact is that I signed up for this, so if I'm weak, I'll find a way to be strong. Or if I'm not even loving my wife in a particular day, it's just that day. As a human being, that happens. You could be angry at someone, but if you're in it for the long run and you're not being selfish and you understand what you're in, you know that there's always something you can work out, as long as there's mutual respect, there's all of that, So yes, there's definitely ups and downs, but I always have in the back of my mind that it's life. It happens. We'll get over it. We'll scrub everything aside and stay focused on ourselves.
So in the family life, I think today what we are finding in most African homes, it's a changing dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, most of us, our parents had this concept where our fathers would go to work in the morning, come back with their portfolios, and they make the money.
Yeah.
Our mom could most likely be a teacher or a nurse.
Yeah.
But they were always like home around you, or even a household wife. And, there was sort of that dynamic where the man was always the provider, the wife was always the support.
Yeah.
But in the 21st century, you're likely to have two working couples.
Yep.
Right? And two people earning. And in some cases, the woman makes as much money or even some more money than her husband.
Yeah.
And you find those kind of disparity, and sometimes it spills out into all kinds of stuff. But the modern marriage has been hit by all kinds of ideas. I mean, there is a huge feminism movement, and there is redefining what it means to be a woman in the world today, and what's the role of a wife. And some people enjoy marriage but want it on a different terms.
Yeah.
Right. And even some men are caught up in this changing world where they're saying, well, I don't think I feel respected enough because if I know that they don't talk to my dad this way because he was the lord of the house. He made all the money. He determines everything, but you have to negotiate power. You have to compromise and give and take. You have to share the rules. And it's a lot of crisis for most men who are not really built in that way.
Sure.
But I don't know what you think for modern couples who are dealing with this thing. How have you navigated all the postmodern ideas of dismantling patriarchy, installing feminism, or dismantling misogynist, and everything, and some guys are not so big on ideology, but they are also trapped in what could be the reality.
True. That is very true, but everything has a driver. What drives those narratives in the first place? Actually, social media. Social media is a heavy driver. It will show you how certain people are living their lives, or try to tell you how to live your life. But what we need to understand is that is social media. That's a bubble. At the end of the day, when the world comes crashing down, it's left to two of you in a room to understand what is actually really going on. Who are we to each other? Who am I? Who are you? Not the world. But today we do things for the world to see. Oh, this is what I bought from my wife. This is what I bought from my husband. This is where we're going for holiday. This is how we're enjoying this, enjoying that. We're showing up.
Curated real.
You understand? But if you actually come down to what really matters, the world doesn't need to know how much you're enjoying or suffering. It's between two of you to, gather that. And when you understand each other that well, no external forces would create any kind of fuss or whatever, because social media today is the number one problem to a lot of marriages crashing. Either it's a gateway to infidelity, or it's a gateway to covetousness, or say, my life is not good enough, I should be living this type of life. Why is this person living like this? Why am I living this way? Not knowing the realities of those people as well. In their real lives, you might not know what's really happening. Everything you see it's just what they want you to see.
Yeah.
Just like a film. So I try to live outside that bubble. And thankfully, my better half as well lives outside that bubble as well. So we know that social media is social media. My daughter's I've never posted my daughter's picture on social media before. In the past, I would have posted, oh, this is my... No.
Someone in this room would like you for that.
Because it's true, because I feel like I am putting them in... And like, for instance, I'm very big on security. If you want to help me, you could know my family, if you know what my son and my daughter looks like, know where they go to school. Yes, you are knowing my life. You already know how to find a way to, be negative to me. But if I'm blocking all of that, you don't even know anything. I'm just showing you a side that has to do with my work. You don't need to know about my life. If it's my life, it is very tiny. That way, you can't do anything to me. You don't even know where to start from. That for me is the reason why I don't even put my kids on social media or anything. It's for security reasons. And also the fact that I can't be telling the world how I live.
Interesting.
It doesn't make any sense. So now there is almost like keeping up with this person, like a reality show. And if you go on social media, so everybody has their own personal reality shows. And if they're not keeping up with that, they become depressed.
Somebody, don't tell me you guys all do matching pajamas.
No, we don't. We might actually you did last year. We did for Christmas pictures last year, but it wasn't even posted on social media. It's in our album, in the family photos. If you come to my house, you will see it, but I didn't post it anywhere. But that's just me. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that.
Yeah.
It's just
but you are maybe part of the 1%. That's what I'll call it. 1% of the people in the world today that are grounded enough not to be swayed or swept by the wave of social media. But was there what helped you guys to become this version of yourselves that is rooted and anchored, that is going to look at the trend, pass through, and you are?
Yeah, so that is why I said my kids are like me. I like to find out reasons. I'm a person that I look at. I think it's a blessing or gave me. I look at patterns. I see patterns a lot. I understand patterns. I understand trends. I understand forecasting. What could be causing something? How could it repeat itself? How can I curb it? How can I solve it? That way I make very little mistakes. You hardly see me make mistakes because I'm always thinking something through before I do it. And that way I don't do everything, or a job or something. I would think about what could go wrong. I would think about the entire process. I'll think about the driving effect. I'll think about, okay, while I'm doing this, who is being affected by this thing? Is it me? Is it for pleasure? Is it for gain? What is the reason why? What's the why? That my head goes around every time. And so social media was something for me before I even started, making films or TV commercials. I was on social media, I was doing the whole thing, but I was looking at people's lives as well. How maybe you could start from somewhere in a particular, like a film, you have a character curve and you just change. You could be a humble person to start with, but because you're on numbers, you become something else. You start doing things that are out of character just to get numbers so people can like your post or comment on your post. I saw that as patterns. Most of the things that happen on social media today is mostly for likes and comment. But what about value? What about if you actually want to touch someone's life? And I'm not talking about going to an NGO and filming yourself giving the person food. That's not touching someone's life. You can do it without any single person in the world knowing about it. That is what really matters. So when I looked at patterns, I looked at the way social media works. Even big companies would give an individual or a celebrity or brand or an influencer a lot of money to promote something, even if their values on the line, just because of numbers. So and I saw the whole thing, I'm like, there has to be a reason why. Okay, no, it's just everything is about numbers, traffic. That's the world of social media. I don't want to be caught up in that space. And because I'm a creator as well, I know that there's always this pressure to top the last thing that you've created. I don't want to be in that space either. I said to myself, I don't want to have that pressure of trying to impress people. I don't want validation from anybody in what I'm doing. If I validate myself and my work, I'm okay with it. If I like my work, someone else would like it. I don't want the world to like it.
You create for self first.
Yeah.
Whoever gets to like it is a coincidence.
Yeah.
But you're not
Exactly.
creating for anyone. Just even thinking about creativity, and the creatives. It's a tough life. A friend of mine was telling me the same experience. He's a skit maker. And he said, Fred, you don't know that before I post, I get scared. I said, why? He said, because if the video underperforms, if the 2-3 videos are not performing like the previous one, I feel like I'm losing something. I don't understand why people put themselves through such
So much.
hell.
Yeah.
But let's talk about creativity, because that's the space where you've explored. I mean, from VR to AI, and we're going to go into all of those.
Yeah.
But if you have to define creativity for yourself, what is your definition of creativity?
Mine is just the ability to tell stories that matter. You know, I'm a creator, I'm a storyteller across different mediums of expression. I could have called myself a film director, I could have called myself a fashion designer, I could have called myself a graphic designer. I do many things that I'm in the creative industry. I could edit, I could like on the highest level, but I looked at it like I can't box myself into anything because I like to be fluid enough to tell stories. That's why I could tell stories in fashion, I could tell stories in AI, I could switch it up to anything I want based on the story that I'm telling. And even if I can't tell that story myself, I'll find people that could tell that story and I collaborate with them, because the essence for me is storytelling, and creativity is the means to tell that story. How do I, put things together to make it work? So it means something. It becomes an artwork, an art form. That's where the creativity comes in. So I look for the best way to tell that story. And one story can be told multiple ways, So for me, it's all about, even the story that I'm telling has to be intentional. It has to matter. It has to reflect the past and the future as well, because I look at where I'm from. I'm African, I'm Nigerian, first of all, I'm black. Everything about that, there is a history that is misrepresented, misconstrued. There is a history that starts from slavery when it comes to the library books, what is not true, many things that we have to correct. So I look at that, okay, for the next generation to actually have it a little bit easier for themselves, I have to do something about it with what I'm doing today, because what I'm doing today would matter in the next 20 years. So everything I am doing today is very intentional for the next generation, because the last generation were not intentional enough for us. If you think about it, there was no data collection, there was no archiving, there was no proper PR for the company, just survival. But what you think about, if you stop living for survival, like you start living intentional to solve certain problems for communities, for industries, for yourself, that doesn't just help you, it helps who comes after you. And that matters. We're in the age of AI today, we're in the age of digital creativity today. But the problem we face the most is data sets. All the data sets that have been trained on AI from Africa is biased.
It's biased.
Every single thing.
And not even sufficient.
Not even sufficient. But when you think about where the money is going today when it comes to Africa and AI, it's not going towards data sets and correcting it. It's going to fueling the foreign media, for the foreign industries that are creating we need to create ours. Why do you think America and China are fighting to be top in? They know that who controls data controls the world. So now, if we're still being biased and the data has been controlled by other entities, where do we stand? It's crazy. So what I'm doing today currently in my little space, I'm archiving, I'm collecting, I'm training large language models with African data with my money, with my skill set, without going to any government official to say this. I know that what I'm doing would help the next generation. And how did I ever stumble upon this? Was the Elder series. I was trying to create elder people of the fashion.
Yes, I love that concept, yeah.
Exactly, and I was finding biased images, misrepresented. They were looking very impoverished. They were looking very poverty-stricken. And even if you type luxurious African man on the fashion roll, you find poverty-stricken looking people. And I was wondering why. What's the problem? Went back to data sets, went back to the AI that was trained, went back to stock imagery. If you go on 2025, type on stock imagery, an African boy in the city, you'll find a boy holding a plate begging for money. 2025, that is horrible. When you now go back to what you don't find in library books on the inception of photography in Africa, the inception of photography in Africa was 1867 or something. Started from Ghana, came in from Accra to Lagos, but not for creative reasons. It was for colonial reasons. They were photographing their exploits. And when you look at the pictures, Africans were photographed as prisoners, front, side, and measured. And these people that were being photographed were kings, obas, and chiefs. I will find the pictures for you. And when you see the caption, the caption will be very sarcastic as well. And that will show you the inception of photography, and that will show you how AI has learned from all those things up until today. But this is not in our library books. If you don't do that research, you won't find those images. People have to research that to find the actual this start from by Nigerian in Nigeria. They brought cameras, they brought these things, but the pictures were taken in farms, in all these places where we're working for them. But how can we change that image? Because before they came, we had culture, we had tradition, we had royalty, we had broadcasting, we had, even before that, we had many things. But why did we document those for our own, data sets, for our own schools, for our own kids to understand where they actually come from? But they didn't come from slavery or some other government coming to give us independence and all of that. That is what causes imposter syndrome. I say, can I really do this? Oh, do I have? No, because you don't really know where you come from. I could go on and on.
Malik, this is very interesting. The question I would want to ask is, how do we decolonize our minds? Here is the thing that I've come to realize is we underestimate how deep colonialism runs. But from colonialism to imperialism, the fundamental aspect is that it's not just that Africans as the whites and the West, they're seeing Africans as inferior and dependent on aid, is that the African mind sees itself exactly the same way. I remember up until 5 years ago, I just sort of realized the African history that I was very acquainted with was leading up until 1914, the amalgamation, dating back to 1885, which is the Berlin Conference. And it was like Africans, they decided what would be African. Africans were not on the table. They decided that the Tutsi tribe, some would fall into Congo because they were colonized by Belgium. The other one would fall into France or fall into the English. Like everybody was decided. Right? You go to Benin, the Yoruba tribe was cut in, and some people fell into Benin, and the other guys fell into Nigeria. Now all of these things, and I started to dial back to pre-colonial and prehistoric. I mean, there's a film we're working on, which is The Legends of Bulan, that was an outcome of that research, and I discovered royalty. But I saw some images of black royalty, of African princesses of the 17th century with hair. At the time, they were not yet slavery, as it were. These people were still trading before the concept of trading came. But we have constantly, through our music, even perpetuate that. Through our movies, we are compensating somewhat. And the decolonized mind is even a threat to itself, but not very many people, even financing anything, is colonized. But the idea that we have not met ourselves is still very scary. So what is in your own understanding, how do we really decolonize?
The fact that you need to understand that, first of all, you don't need permission from anybody to know anything. You don't need anybody's help. For instance, yes, we're not big on making, we're big on using, so technology and all of that. But we have it at our disposal to use for good, for aid, while we make ours. If we're creating products, if we're creating avenues, solutions that help in small pockets in our own way to shape the mindsets of people. I use storytelling, for instance, because I know storytelling is a very powerful tool.
It is.
Everybody loves a story. It could be music, it could be a film, it could be a book. And that's what shaped the world that we are in today with Hollywood. Hollywood is a big player when it comes to storytelling, and they're very intentional with it.
Very intentional.
And it worked. So I understand the power of storytelling. So whatever story I'm telling today, even if I put AI videos on my Instagram, I'm making you watch it from beginning to end, and you're getting something from that thing. So that means I was being intentional before I ever did it. So if you look at, if in Nollywood, for instance, if the directors and the producers decide that, okay, we want to be intentional about our stories, the stories will start to change. We start to go back into history to find the real things. We don't do things just for cinema numbers. We don't do things just to look good to the West or anything, or to get the best camera angles No, we start to tell proper African stories. The real ones that are not being told, that have been suppressed, we have a plethora, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
When people understand that, okay, we're actually royalty. This is where I come from. I have the power to do this. I don't need that person's permission to do this. Let me just do it. I don't care what you think about it, as long as I feel it is good enough for me. That is how I feel it could start. Personally, when I used to do TV commercial, I still do TV commercial, but when I used to do it a lot, I used to post it. I hope people will comment on this and I like it, And I realized, okay, if it doesn't even have a lot of comment, I'll feel bad that, I didn't do well. I didn't do the. So I had to move away from that.
Very important.
And I made sure, okay, I'll make sure my skill sets are 100%. I'll make sure everything I'm doing, I do it right.
So creating from love, not for love.
Not exactly. I'm making sure I dot my I's, cross my T's. So you can't have anything to say about it. If you don't like it, it's your opinion. But I like it. And other people might like it. Then I said, okay, for validation, I don't care about validation anymore. If you see the comments I get on my posts on LinkedIn sometimes, it doesn't mean anything to me. And people will look at it and like, the kind of comments I get is like, wow, you've changed my life. This has touched me in a way that I can't. God bless. People pray for me. But to me, I just look at it and I don't feel a lot of, it's just normal to me.
You're not enhanced by the compliment.
At all.
And you're not diminished by the absence of.
At all. I love it. It's great.
Yes.
But it doesn't affect.
You're not depending on it.
I was depending on it.
But you've said it. The words I love when you use them, intentionality. And it's something I understand and I practice. So moving from survival to intention, it's a whole world of difference.
Yeah.
I think what allows for that is sort of like an economic prosperity. Because we talk about Americans telling their stories. Every year you hear 70,000 Africans are going to attempt to travel abroad by road.
True.
They go through the Mediterranean Sea, go through the Sahara Desert. These are actually death centers.
Yeah.
The chances that they will arrive, it's very slim, but they do it nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I think the Americans have used storytelling to create the illusion of the American dream. And I've been to California and I saw people living on the streets. They have serious drug issues, but that's not what we know.
Yes.
We don't even see the homelessness that they are dealing with. What we deal with in Africa is that we just have to live here. So you do a transfer window, I would say. And it's okay, please, Africans, choose another continent. This is a transfer window. I would bet that this place will be empty in no time. But I would also realize that this place will get so wide. You realize that the Lebanese love it here, the Chinese love it here. Africans just can't see.
True.
Well, but again, being a creative is something our parents always were not very sure about. One the first time my father saw me trying to draw, he was mortified that he didn't like it at all. Because I think he had a cousin or a friend who was an artist that didn't quite make it. I was like, no, I don't want anybody doing this around me. You will not, right? And I remember it was still, and I used to write novels even at 10.
Wow.
And nobody else seemed to like it. It was like, you want to end up like Wole Soyinka? He's just popular, but he's broke. Sorry, guys. But, that's how our parents, painted the picture for us. Everybody wanted you, doctor, you will have money, you convert this place to hospital. People get sick all the time.
Yeah.
Lawyer, nobody's going to mess with you. Right? That's how they saw it. So even choosing what to study is survival.
True.
Right? But as a creative living in Nigeria, how would you describe the opportunities that you've been able to access and the potential for good? Because I asked yesterday, if Elon and Steve Jobs were born here, would they be what they are today? And the guest I had at the time said, I don't think so. I don't think so, because there is always a lot of challenges, right? So what would be your own experience in trying to grow a creative company, finance your projects, scale your company, scale your business? What has been that experience for you?
For me, I think my greatest, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll think of the word, but it's consistency.
Okay.
So I remember about 8-9 years ago when I was playing around with virtual reality. This was way before people even started talking about virtual reality here. I was already buying virtual reality cameras. I was already using the Google Cardboards to play around with it. I went to a company here back then. I wouldn't mention the name of it because it's a big company, and they told me Nigeria isn't ready for this yet. And in my mind, why can't you be the first to innovate? Because I think about the future. Today, I'm already thinking about 10 years from now. I'm thinking that's how I think. And then that's how I was thinking. Like, this is the future. This is what is going to be. I'm researching, data, researching robotics, researching everything. But for good, how can it help? Because I would never stop being Nigerian, whatever. If I have a different passport or not, I'm still going to be Nigerian. I'm still, this is where I'm from. I can't change it. So what can I do to help? What can I do to change mindsets or make things easier? That's what I look at. So for me, consistency with technology is something that has always helped me. I love tech. I spend more money on gadgets than any other thing. Like I'll buy a camera before I buy a car. That is me. And it's always been like that. When I come to my home office, you will just be seeing gadgets everywhere. I'm always testing.
You have a friend in this room.
That's who I am. And I think about going from there up until now, if I stopped or if I was discouraged, I wouldn't be where I am today. AI, that is today is a buzzword, is a facade. It's been 4 years for me. Nobody was talking about AI when I started doing AI. It was gone. It was so for me, it wasn't because I knew that okay, maybe in 2025 AI will be the thing, but I knew one day, I said, let me just explore because this is interesting. I found it interesting. And I found the fact that there are possibilities with this thing. How can I? So I followed through. I was always at the forefront. Reading research papers. I didn't like books in school, but I was always, after school, I found myself reading research papers, reading, books, reading things in my own. Any free time I get, I'm studying, I am practicing, because I just wanted to know. I wanted to be in the forefront. Even when it comes to film directing, I could stand in a room with any Hollywood director, we could talk technicalities. I wanted to be in that space. I didn't want to be seen as a Nigerian that is trying to, no. We have the same brain. Use your brain, you have a better opportunity, but I have a brain. I will spend more time, I'll burn candles, but we'll have the same information as you. Now that's how I would work with. So I've always been in that. I don't want where I'm at to kind of be a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage, I won't lie. There are many things that don't work right. There are many things that I would have scaled through if everything was working perfectly. But the fact is that the opportunities for the future are there. And if we can empower a lot of people to understand how you can create change with tech or create change with one kind of solution, somehow the future might be better. So for me, I've always been consistent with technology. When the new thing comes out, I'm getting it, or I'm researching, or I'm saving money. I'm hoping to make some money from my traditional work, which is, TV commercial. My profits, I'm putting it in that thing and I'm buying it. It's not, I don't really make money for pleasure or all of that. I make money my wife told me that you need to stop this sometimes, that when we start saving properly for them, I'm like, well, okay, right? It's, because it's more of, we need to be in a space where we can speak tech, we can talk tech, we can use tech the same way the other countries are using it. That's why I was happy about DeepSeek and other Coin when it became open source and okay, yeah, we can do now alter certain things, refine certain things. But at the same time, we're creating ours. That's why I said I'm archiving, documenting properly, not just digitally, physical. We're going to physical spaces to archive. Did you know there were 8 monarchies in Ikorodu?
8 monarchies
in Ikorodu. Did you know that?
That long ago?
Today there is right now. They've always been. But we were not taught that in school.
I don't think
I didn't know that up until recently too. Working monarchies. Yes. And we're currently about to start to document that too.
Interesting.
There's so many things that we don't know. And that is because the syllabus in school, I don't know where it came from.
I think we even spoke about how they took away history, although I think this present government is adding it back. But AI has become such a contention. The battle with China and the US continue to range.
Yeah.
Africans are mostly waiting to consume, but not create. I do know that a lot of the challenge, like you said, is biased data.
Yeah.
Right. But also, how do you see Africans leveraging AI to leapfrog? Because we've always spoken about Africans leapfrogging with technology.
Yeah.
With AI, where do you see that possibility? How do we, on the mass scale, leverage AI to bring our continent into 21st century? Is that something you've given some thoughts?
I'm currently working on stuff like that as well. There's a lot of space for that, because when you look at every form of AI, from generative to big data to to agentic to every single thing, there is space, because of the fact that when everything is done in the world, Africa is usually the last. Let me go to something as small as text to voice, for instance. If you go text to voice and you put Nigerian, then it doesn't even sound Nigerian.
True.
What if we start to get Yoruba accent, Ijebu accent, Igbo people, Hausa people that would, document, create this thing, so you can create text to voice with indigenous languages, indigenous accent, voices and stuff like that. The space is there. Images, culture, tradition, clothing, artworks, all these things. Data. If I put Ijebu man on any AI software, it could never give me that image. But I could put a Mongolian man, as it probably do that. But where is that? So these are the spaces that we need to start showing,
Interesting.
you know, because we are going to be the last in line if we don't do anything. And that's a problem. So what we can do today is to find out how indigenous languages, indigenous cultures, subcultures can be documented, can be stored and trained in the large language models and the neural network. That alone would push us to a space where we could, you know, speak. Like, just imagine we had a text voice that was credible, that was representing the right cultures. Everything.
Even the Google map has this. You're on Nta Road, and maybe it's NTA. Like, you will just realize that they still. And you have to listen again as well.
Exactly.
To know, because it's not even localized.
It's not localized. So we need to do all of this. But it all comes from data sets. We can't do anything without data sets. We have to capture. We have to properly move to communities, sub-communities, and it's not just the tech bros. It's everybody.
Yes.
You know, we need to work with local, you know, chiefs to understand what their culture is like the most and document that. So we are properly representing them.
Do we drive that advocacy through education? Because a lot of them are on their way out.
Yeah.
I remember going to interview Professor Bruce all the way in his village in Delta State. And I remember just seeing him. He has this gallery. He was trying to really build like a tourist center with art. But halfway through, the place is amazing. But the road to the place, you know how Nigeria is, you have to figure it out yourself. So he has this very amazing space that is removed from everything else. I think his dream, like I look at this man, he poured everything into it.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself, wow, there's so much history here. He's 90.
Wow.
Right? And what are we doing to be able to archive? He spoke with such clarity, such depth of history. In fact, he worked with us on Passport of Madame Ilya.
Yeah.
And he had to illustrate some scenes. And we were asking him about, he was even talking about African spirituality and how some kind of art was a communication in itself. And he was going into layers and layers of meaning behind the art. And, I really felt this was a masterclass.
Yeah.
Right. But people like Wole Soyinka, they're 90. They're on their way out. All right. In another 10 years, we'll have very few of them left. And not a lot is being done to capture that.
True.
Right? But I don't know if you have anything in the way of advocacy that is able to sensitize, because there's Africa No Filter trying to change the image of Africa. I mean, we're all there.
Yes.
But being able to take that, I know that, we do research when we want to come up with stories, but how do we integrate it into an LLM that can help us to now start to, feed into an open source that helps us to see the world, or able to see us the way we want to be seen?
It's funny you ask this question, because I have a project that is focused exactly on that. It's called Storylines. Actually, it was powered initially by Africa No Filter. So I was like, what's a smile? Like, you're just hitting the point. So I started Storylines last year. Storylines is I'm documenting stories from people that are aged 80 and above, all over the country, starting from Nigeria. We've documented people like Shadi Thomas. That's the first designer. She's 92 now.
So this is video documentation.
Video, yes.
Beautiful.
And it's not just documenting them. So we're using all the data that we're getting from there to train large language models. So in the future, so let me start from the beginning. Documentary, there's something called a holobox. The holobox is an innovative box that has a screen, so that when someone is speaking to you from the inside, you feel like the person is inside that thing. That's how we're exhibiting it. But that's just for exhibition reasons and for all of that. But it becomes a time capsule for the future. So the next generation in the 50 years will get to meet their ancestors. So now imagine, we never met our ancestors in our lifetime. Nobody in our lifetime met their ancestors. But that's the goal for this. So imagine 50 years from now, you're going back and you want to meet your ancestors, you see them. And it's not just listening to the interviews. We are creating AI languages with these people, using everything that we've learned from them to train AI avatars, a digital twin of these people. So you can ask them questions and they respond to you based on everything that we've learned from them.
Beautiful.
So imagine a Bruce, for instance, asking something about art in 1920 and is responding to you without just. So that is the future of the project, and it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard to reach them. It's hard to manage. It's hard to many things because we're dealing with this demographic, but it's necessary as well. And the many things I've learned from these people that I never even knew existed. The many things that happened during the war or during independence or during many times that we don't know because they were not documented properly. but these are accounts of people that live.
Have you done someone like Newton Jibono?
I'd love to. No, I'm always searching for people.
Yes, because I think he is. I mean, there is also this guy Nwoko that is a sculptor. I know that man is over 90. He's a professor, but I remember meeting his son at the time in Port Harcourt and wanting to see a lot about even around music, what people like Victor Wifo them that are on their way out now. I think that I know someone like this guy that sang Baby with Two-Face, Victor Layo. I know they're almost all on their way.
True.
Right. And the other is Bongo Sikwe, this one in the north, or Dan Mariah. We just have all these guys that brought sound, brought certain unique elements. So this project is super exciting to me. Yeah. It's something that if I can, I'll find to try and see how to get a community that can actually support it, because I also feel like if we don't do, it's a moral responsibility in our time to give our kids what we don't have, what we're not given.
Exactly.
Right. And so I'm not just a creator, but the way we can shape and redefine how we tell stories and the African future, it's through that. But how do you see Africa in terms of the potential and the possibilities? People have called Africa a sleeping giant. People have called Africa like, a lot of things, the richest dark continent. But in your own prophetic possibilities, what do you see that is possible, and why are you still here, right? Because the idea of I know a lot of friends who just said, I'm going to school, but I'm coming back because I'm a patriotic citizen. Trust me, the last I saw them was 2 weeks holiday in Nigeria and they're gone. But still being here, returning to Nigeria, something draws you home. But why?
Responsibility. I feel like I have a skill set. I have ideas. I have solutions. I don't have the right capital for them. If not, I would have been doing them. But I will keep doing them regardless. So if I feel like I did something with Marvel Studios 2 years ago for a major film that'll be out later this year, and they were asking me, "What are you doing in Nigeria?" They're like, "Why are you not in LA? What are you doing?" Like, it's like, serious question, what are you doing? Because whenever I have production meetings with the full team, director, everybody, in Marvel, and I was doing it virtually with them, and they were asking, and I was asking myself, why are they asking me this question? Is it such a bad thing to be in Nigeria?
Yeah, to be talented and still not to
still be here.
People.
The other series, for instance, the AI people on the fashion runway, people would come and say, "I never knew it was a Nigerian that did it. Wow, it was a Nigerian." And I feel funny. It doesn't rub me up the right way, So that means the expectations for Nigerians are not high enough. That's a problem. So if I leave,
but it's designed in such a way that part of why we can't compete is the best don't get to stay.
Sure.
And then when you get to the other side of the Bay Area, or you get to the other side of the coast, you realize that they have projects for which they need your talent, for which your values and your vision cannot align.
True.
For them, they already have a bias. They have a plot. They're going this way, and they just fall in line. So you get paid, living decent life and being comfortable, but you lose out on being able to power anything that can drive change on the continent.
Exactly.
And I do think part of what I'm trying to achieve with this podcast is to identify a prophetic tribe of people, thinkers, creators who connect on this level. So this is one question I always don't fail to ask. Why we're still here, what we see, what we're bringing the continent. You've spoken like a true believer. You've spoken about the need for us to look beyond just survival into being intentional about Africa. And I think that people that are very intentional, it takes a certain level of decolonization to become intentional about your mind. So I'm also very keen on, part of what I want to do with this podcast is maybe one season we'll go to Ghana and sit with the creators in Ghana and the thinkers in Ghana who are bringing the continent into a new civilization. We go to Kenya. I don't even mind going to the diaspora to sit in Silicon Valley and ask the Nigerians who are creating, because interestingly, when you meet them there, the very true ones, the light, they'll tell you, "I can't wait to get back." Literally, they're seeing what is possible and what they're thinking. Like, it is almost like, my people have to see what is here, right? So I really do love that. They said it's the age of Africa. The time has come for Africans, and I feel that with more collaboration, we can have that. But if there are three things you think an African creator, an African young person needs to understand to get to this level of consciousness, where they're not having to compensate, apologize for likes, or curate for external approval, but they're living from a place of centeredness, awareness, and being, where they know that I'm here to bring to channel, to bring the world into a new place of possibilities, to give and not to just get, to serve and not just to obtain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you got here, Malik. I want to find a defining moment. The moment where you had the dark night of the soul and you woke up and like, guys, life is not about this. Life is this. I don't know what was that defining point for you.
When you're comfortable, sometimes you have to be comfortable. You have to understand that there'll be times in your life that are low moments. There was a time in my life I was headhunted for a job. I was earning a lot of money, millions every month. I just woke up one morning and I quit. I just gave them my resignation letter. This was comfort. This was, security.
Yeah.
That I shouldn't have done. But if I was there, I wouldn't be where I am today right now. I thought about the whole thing. People thought I was crazy. Like, what? And this was a point in time that I did not have a backup plan or nothing.
No profile to attract anything more.
Nothing. I just knew that I should be doing something more. And I should not be here.
You know what I call that? It's called the sound of the genuine. And there was this American mystic, that a poet, I think it was a Baptist priest. He said, within every one of us is the sound of the genuine. And that until you listen and heed to that voice, your life will be an empty symbol, just going around with motion, but no movement.
Yeah, it's true. And it's true. And when I did quit the job, yes, money wasn't coming in. I was broke for a little bit. But one thing that I'm blessed with is I have so many skill sets. That one thing will always bring me money. I have so many in the media industry. I have so many. I train myself to a space where I want to be the best at what I do. So I train other people. People call me if they're stuck.
Yes.
And I show them what to do, that kind of thing. That's how So sometimes I'll look at something. I could just post something on Instagram or Twitter, and someone will come, oh, you could do that. I'm like, yeah. How much will you charge me for that? Just give them a fee. My month is sorted. So that kind of helped me. Yeah. So I tell creatives, don't try to be the best at what you do. You can't pick everything. Yeah. I'm a curious person. That's why I do a lot of things. Currently learning a lot in coding. I didn't start as a coder, but I started coding in bits and bits. Even if AI can code for you, but I want to know how to do it.
Code, yeah.
I'm currently doing machine learning and AI engineering. I don't have to, but I want to know how to do it. Because if I want to build an AI software, I don't want to just employ engineers and come and tell me something. I want to know what they're saying.
Do you share the fears of any creatives?
The fears?
That AI will take their jobs?
I don't. Because
what's the relationship with AI?
It's a collaborator from me. And that should be for everybody. An artist should collaborate, a writer should collaborate with it, because it will enhance your work. It won't replace it. And you are the one feeding it to your own data to make
intelligence for you.
Exactly. So people that are scared of it don't understand it. That's how I see it. I did a job with, I just posted it recently with Heartbeat Bonvita. The African Bonvita thing, was AI images. I did that 2 years ago, when AI wasn't even creating realistic images. But when I did it, I said photographers to come for me. People will come for me. It's just a come for me. I don't want them to So 2 years later is when I posted this thing, because if I did it, then they will say, no, this is AI. This. But now they are accepting the fact that, okay, actually, I can add this to my skill sets and even create better things, not replace it. People think, oh, you need to, it's not a replacement. You're combining it. So I don't feel like, even it won't take over film. It will not replace film. This is not possible. Humans drive everything. A storyteller has a unique story that he wants to tell. AI cannot tell a unique story. It has to take a human to make that thing unique. And if a writer is unique enough in a traditional way, now imagine adding something that helps you refine it 100%, 1,000%. Imagine where you would be. You might spend 20 days editing. What if you could spend 1 day editing? Do you understand? So it does. I'm not saying AI write this script for me. No. I'm still writing my scripts, but I'm adding enhancements to it. I'm not saying AI draw this image for me. I'm still drawing, but AI is enhancing. I'm seeing 20 different images that look like that, different variations of it, in different colors, in different composition, different lightings, using AI. But if I was to do that traditionally, I'm spending weeks. So I always tell people, don't cutting the time down. Even imagining, having more imagination, seeing it in different ways that you could not even see with your thoughts, because your mind is already covered with many other things. But how can't you just open your mind to say, okay, let me find other variations of, like, if I open my library for you, you will see things like, why haven't you launched this? I was experimenting. Because that's what AI does. there are many industries I could be in today with AI, but I don't go in there because that's not my specialty, I guess. You understand? But I've seen the products, but I wouldn't do
AI has elevated that
exactly.
that space.
You know, so I would say every industry has an opportunity to grow using technology. Just find a way to collaborate with it.
Malik, 2 questions to really bring this to a crunch point. I think one of them is really around the fact that one of the challenges of the African world is Africans tend to be very overly religious. There is this sense of learned helplessness where we have outsourced our power and we are praying on, oh God, come and help us to fix Nigeria, fix Africa. Africa, wake up. We want to wake Africa in prayer. But what is your perception of spirituality, and how have unlearning certain things helped put you in a place where you're your true authentic power today?
Well, personally, I have a personal relationship with God. You know, not because of a pastor or anything. I've always had that, and that's because of my mom. You know, she grew up like she trained us, you know, to be very spiritual in a way that is you can speak to your father, they'll listen to you. I don't have to tell the world I'm a Christian or anything. It's a personal relationship with him. I'm not perfect. I still do things that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. Stuff like that. I'm a human being. And I'm true to that. I'm not going to lie to myself. But at the end of the day, I know what is above me. I know when I can ask for something. Before my work, even before it became viral, I had a prayer. I said, I want something. It was intentional too. You know, so everything that happens in my life is mostly intentional. And I just know that if you're in a space where you're true to yourself, you don't lie to yourself about anything, like literally anything, and you recognize the power above you, that you're not made by yourself. There's a creator above you, you know, and you can ask, not just to give for forgiveness, how can I be closer to you? You know, how can I do the right things, even if I know I'm still imperfect? You will live your life in a way that you're not really worried about other people's opinion if you are good or bad, because you know what you're doing, and you're growing in the pace that you are meant to grow. You know, I could be asking God today for the most elaborate car in the world, the most luck, but I don't need it. You know, because who am I showing off to? Why do I need it? But if I was stuck in a social media bubble, I would be doing that. You know, but because I understand where I'm going to and where I'm coming from, it's paced out. You know, where I am today might not be where I want to be, but there's a reason for it. Many different factors to it, but I'm not depressed about it. I'm just finding other ways to make sure as I'm growing, I don't fall.
Malik, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that you already have a personal revelation that has sort of sustained your creativity, also put you in a place of true freedom. But we wrap up with one question, and that question is for you. And what question should we have asked you that we didn't ask you today that you want us to?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think you cover literally everything.
Yeah.
But mostly it's yeah.
Yeah, but you know that we've spoken about AI, we've spoken about love, marriage, raising kids, balancing your work life, thinking about Africa, the need for us to be solution-oriented in what we do, thinking about how we can even do a lot more in terms of investing in creating our own data sets that would help us to expand the interpretation of our possibilities and, you know, let the world see the true representation of our royalty. Dialing back into history, thinking across, you're quick with technology and all of those things. And I think that for me, there's so much to pull out of this, so much to pull out. But Malik you're one of the people that I think young people should learn from. You've never been boxed by any label. You've always evolved. Last time I met you was VR. Next time I'm meeting you was AI. If I was like, who did this guy? It's Malik again. I'm likely to see. That's why I asked you on 3D printing, because I know that Malik was trending lately. And I was like, oh, I'm on it. I was on it 4 years ago, but it's just like getting to, you're always onto something.
Yeah.
That sense of curiosity, that sense of intention defines you. And it's not just something that has helped you succeed. It's something every young person out there needs, because we are very intentional about helping young people see something. So maybe I would say, if you had to go back to 17-year-old self, and perhaps there's a 17-year-old boy who is disillusioned, complicated, locked out on what life is, he's feeling he has blown it at 17. What would you say to that guy that you would have said to yourself at 17? Maybe that would be my closing shot.
Mine would be just, if you're thinking about it, just do it. I've always been convicted to like, I always know what I want to do. Like, let me give you a very funny example. I was meant to be part of the first set of Covenant University. I got admission to it, but I refused to go. Yeah, my parents fought to me, but I said I'm not going. I didn't have any admission to any other school, but I said I wasn't going. I said this is not where I'm supposed to be. And that's the kind of person I am, and I did not go. You understand that? It's crazy, right?
It was a nightmare for them.
Oh, it was a nightmare. Even my friends were falling out on me that, are you crazy? That they didn't have admission. I'm getting admission to a private school. My parents are willing to pay, and I'm saying no. I said, I'm not going there. I'll be depressed. That's not where I'm supposed to be. I just knew that I wasn't there. I just, even when I went to uni, like, if I just found out that that's not where I'm supposed to be. Until I moved away and I kind of opened my mind to other things. I felt like I wasn't learning enough. There was a lot that I was looking for that I wasn't getting. I could not explain it. I could not say this is what it was, but I just knew what it was. I just said, so whatever you're thinking and you have a strong mind about it, go for it. Just like do it. And that's how I've lived my life all through the years. I've had job offers with major like many things that I have had film producers come to me to direct some major films, Nigerian though, and I've said no, not because of pride or anything, just because I feel like that wasn't for me. Stuff like that. So they might not understand. Some people might think it's pride, or might think it's, but it's not. I know the direction I'm going, so I know the line I'm going. So my current project that I'm working on as a hobbies project is something that connects to the past and the future. I didn't speak about it, but I'll speak about it quickly.
Yeah, that helps.
I'm a Christian, but I'm sure you know about the Ifa mythology and binary numbers.
Sadly, I'm very intrigued with those things.
Really?
I don't know my problem, but I just it's drawn to all of this.
So all of this and the binary numbers and
all of that. Even in the Igbo culture, yes. I find them deeply like they're Dinkra codes.
Yes.
They are very, very. They are deep meaning. They're oracles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like instability, like you said, this binary and Ifa is zeros and ones, and these are things. So that kind of put me in a space. Okay, what if we could interact with just African sculptors? So I have a project that an African sculptor that we're making with fiberglass and metal, but also wearing an LCD glasses inbuilt with motion detectors and a large language model. So when you're going close to it, you read your emotions and says that on the screen. And this is the first time ever we're merging technology with traditional artifacts. That was just me trying to see how I can bridge the two together, stuff like that. And it's never been done before.
Yes.
And so that's where I like to think about how can I make Africans think of themselves differently without worrying about what anybody will think about it, without being, just do it. And that idea came from me just studying about binary codes and seeing the relationship and all of that.
The interesting thing is if you go all the way back to places like Kemet, and you study the Kemetic principles, you will find a lot of codes and that are very similar, right, in a sense. And I really think that there's an ancient wisdom that we need to awaken to, right? Even what we believe today, this is Christianity that was a true away from everything that was our spirituality.
Yeah.
It's something that has taken away from the black man.
Yeah.
Right? I think it hasn't helped us as it should have, because the Christian experience was actually pointing to something even more divine, helping you to rediscover God as an indwelling reality. It wasn't about throwing away your culture, rejecting that which is part of who you are, right? But giving you new meaning for them. So they're not necessarily idolized, but they're embodied as part of their fingers point to the deeper truth.
Exactly.
Right. So I really think that it's still a strong tension. I mean, I have friends who are very torn on the same aisle. Christians are like, no, you can't mix both. There's syncretism. And you have the other Christians are like, no, I think we need to study. We need to figure out what this is and find new ways to bring them in so that we don't throw the baby and the bathwater.
Exactly. I agree.
You've made this fun.
Thank you.
Right, guys, I think Malik and Malik is somebody I know that we would have to work on something together.
Definitely.
There is something I'm excited about, because even just listening to you and what we're trying to do with Legends of Bulan is an Afro fantasy. But I also want us to go back in time where we can enter portals. And each of these portals will become sort of like a discovery The ancient university, the first university in the world, was found in Africa.
Yeah.
Right? You now found that there are civilizations underneath. In fact, there was a time, I think it was Hannibal of Carthage, conquered Spain.
Yeah.
So you find that this the Moors,
Yeah.
the Moors were very strong black people,
Yeah.
right? And they even colonized
Yeah.
the West at some point. I think it's so much stories we need to tell.
So much, and you don't see all these stories being told.
No. Something Chinua Achebe said that until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always determine where the story goes.
Exactly.
Guys, it's time to tell our stories. Malik is doing it with technology. Every new technology is a tool. So it's not about just losing yourself to one technology, but letting that technology empower you in new ways that you can expand the possibilities of the stories you tell. We've spoken about everything from love, raising kids, being a creative in Africa, seeing a dream in Africa, coming back home to build Africa, helping Africa create and give to a generation a data model that can allow for us to see the possibilities of Africa. It's also about using tools to tell our stories. It's also about dreaming big. It's about learning, curiosity, living with tension. That's a lot to take away from this. Guys, this is a wrap for us, and looking forward to our next guest and our next episode. Once again, thanks for joining. Thank you.